Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Multiple updates today on stimulus from Mnuchin, Pelosi, McConnell, Meadows. We've got updates on the election, COVID, lockdowns, and we'll also talk about at-home rapid tests and more. Let's hit the updates. A quick note, I want to say that I'm shocked by how many of you emailed me for bundle coupons yesterday. Many of you are just 20% into your first course and you're emailing me to get a Black Friday bundle coupon for your second. I'm like 185 emails deep right now, so if you email me, it's going to take all day to get back. But you can email me at kevin@meetkevin.com, and I really appreciate all of your support and your desire to grow your knowledge and your wealth in the programs down below. I think we've got one of the smartest audiences. Sometimes we can be critical in the commentary, but that sometimes goes together, so I think that's great. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Let's get started with stimulus. Yesterday, Kevin McCarthy, Leader McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi all sat down and spoke. Yesterday, we heard from Chuck Schumer that after this meeting, Mitch McConnell is willing to come back to the negotiating table after all four of them talked yesterday. And this is coming back to the negotiating table regarding stimulus. Nancy Pelosi clarified in her press conference this morning that all four of them did talk yesterday, but they mostly talked about keeping the government funded, that they all agree they want an omnibus bill to keep the government funded, which is basically a new bundle of like 12 bills put together to keep the government funded through the next year. So that way we don't see another government shutdown. They do not want to just do a kick the can down the road continuing resolution. Nancy Pelosi said that stimulus talks didn't happen at this meeting, but they did say that they'd be open to all meeting again to talk. Though this is when Nancy Pelosi does go on sort of her bashing of McConnell again and says, look, I've been at the table for 6 months and a week waiting to negotiate, and all I'm waiting for is Mitch McConnell to take his hand off the pause button. Nancy Pelosi says she agrees with Republicans, though, and wants more PPP funding for businesses. However, she's saddened that Republicans are not interested in providing rental relief, food aid, and the proper state and local government funding for expenses that we need to prevent layoffs and funding going forward. This is frequently called the blue state bailout. This is the same song that Nancy Pelosi has been singing for these 6 months. And so, yeah, great, but so far we don't have much progress from Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. But we did get a little bit more insight from Steve Mnuchin over at the Treasury. Steve Mnuchin spoke on Squawk Box this morning, and he mentioned some updates regarding negotiations that are going on stimulus specifically. Him, Leader McCarthy, who's the Republican leader in the House, the Democratic-controlled House, and Mitch McConnell, all three of them, with possibly Mark Meadows, will all be meeting to strategize on a targeted relief bill. Now, my expectation is that we'll see a brand new bill come out. Republicans accepting any bit of the HEROES Act is likely going to be seen as a Republican failure, and Democrats accepting any part of the Skinny or HEALS Act is likely going to be seen as a Democratic failure. And I think these leaders know this. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin also provided substantial detail this morning on 5 CARES Act facilities that were basically announced to be terminated at the end of the year. This gave Mnuchin a lot of backlash in the press over the last 24 hours. And let's talk about this because this actually ties directly into stimulus, and it's actually good news for stimulus. So the 5 CARES Act programs that will expire at the end of the year are the Municipal Bond Program, the Main Street Lending Program, the Primary Market Corporate Credit Facility, the Secondary Market Corporate Credit Facility, and the Term Asset-Backed Securities Loans. The last one has to do with the flow of credit to student loans, auto loans, credit cards, SBA loans, Main Street lending, small, medium businesses, right? Municipal bonds would be cities. Corporate credit facilities would be buying bonds. Steve Mnuchin is saying, look, these programs, they were great, they served their purpose, but we don't really need them anymore. Now, in the papers, Mnuchin got destroyed. People see this as a politically motivated lack of extension for these programs designed to hurt Joe Biden and pull the rug out from under the economy. Mnuchin defends this and says that no, actually what we did is those programs served their purpose. We just freed up $429 billion of unused money from the CARES Act, and we can cancel a $26 billion loan. And guess what we can now do? We can repurpose that money for restaurants, airlines, the PPP, and basically it gives $450 billion more of money that Congress can use to negotiate in stimulus negotiations. So from the point of view of stimulus negotiations, this is actually good news. It means that a Nancy Pelosi $2.4 trillion deal could actually look like a $1.95 trillion deal. Now, the optics of this aren't that great for Steve Mnuchin because he kind of looks like the Grinch stealing Christmas now. But given that he's also right after this, like literally within 24 hours, now having a meeting with McConnell, Meadows, and Kevin McCarthy about stimulus, kind of goes to show that maybe this was strategic. Let's free up $450 billion here. That gets us closer. We've got some other CARES Act money that we've got freed up already, like the other $132 billion for the PPP program. There's like almost $600 billion combined. Hey, great. Now we've basically almost got a free skinny bill. Let's now take any other motivations to spend new money and maybe come up with a new, larger package. So this is kind of, to me, this is not horrible news. And the markets have mostly been shrugging off this sort of rug being pulled out, so to speak, from these Fed lending facilities. This is despite the fact that Jerome Powell says, hey, like, we should really extend these programs. But Jerome Powell, as we know, is really a big proponent of stimulus and these programs. And so right now it sounds like maybe they're taking away one to give to the other. We'll see. Now, there are a few things that are going to be kind of important to touch on the election here. Let's hit those. First, we heard that in Georgia, a hand recount was completed. 5 million ballots have been recounted. And after this recounting, Georgia affirmed that Biden leads Trump. Now, Georgia has until Friday to actually certify the results. The results are not certified yet. Then, if the losing campaign is within 0.5%, they could actually demand another recount, a scanned recount instead of a hand recount this time. Now, in the recount, Biden's lead did fall by 496 votes, but Biden is still 12,284 votes ahead. This is also an interesting statistic. According to The Economist, 74% of Republicans do not believe that Trump should concede, and the same 74% of Republicans believe that there was some level of election fraud and these investigations need to continue on. This compares to only 6% of Democrats who believe there was election fraud. So you can see this massive separation between Republicans and Democrats regarding the belief that there was fraud or was not fraud in the election. Now, on Wisconsin, I want to add a little bit of clarity to this just because I've got a little bit of data. On Wisconsin, Trump has retweeted a few times that there was this massive voter dump in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Trump alleges that this is very suspicious. The problem, though, is for Trump is that Milwaukee is pretty dang left. And the easiest way to see this is just to pull up the data. This is the 2016 election. Thank you, Politico, for getting this together here. But this is the 2016 election. And what you can really see here is you've got Trump pulling in 126,000 votes compared to 288,000 for Clinton. So you've got this huge spread in Milwaukee. And you've kind of got that similar margin now, 66% to 29%. If we go back over here and we look at what happened here, in 2020, we've got almost the same division here. That's 69%, 29% division here. It just, I guess the way the vote dumped in all sort of at once, which was filmed, by the way. They have video of the election officials with a police escort delivering these results. The way those results came in kind of looked like a suspicious, all of a sudden, big Biden jump. Now, this isn't to, cast any kind of shade on any political party or to say that there aren't going to be other investigations on other things. But I thought that was actually very interesting. It's something to know about Milwaukee, that it's kind of in line with the results from 2016. Okay. Additionally, let's talk Trump, Michigan quickly. Trump is reaching out directly to Republican state legislators from Michigan and inviting them to the White House. And this is leading people to say, why? Well, partially, Trump might be meeting with these people because Monday is Michigan's election result deadline to certify the election. But if Trump can prevent the certification of the election in Michigan as sort of maybe, investigations are conducted, then there's this technical loophole that Republican legislatures in the state of Michigan could technically intervene, appoint pro-Trump electors in the state that Biden technically won, and they might be able to support Trump when the Electoral College meets on December 14th. That seems to be the current strategy with Donald Trump meeting legislatures from Michigan. And we're talking about like the state body, not the House or Senate of the United States. So this is just important to keep an eye on because this is an example of, Trump's latest strategy to investigate the election results and to, continue to pursue any avenue that he can. Now, the odds of this happening, that is state legislators actually intervening into the election, pretty unlikely. It's a small chance that this is going to happen, but the president does plan on holding these discussions today, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Now, there's also been a lot of talk about the Dominion voting machines. Obviously, a lot of this is still being investigated, though the latest information we have is that there was some sort of manual error related to these machines, but not a machine error, which does kind of raise some questions, though Dominion does not operate in areas like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or Philadelphia, which are some of the largest, disputed territories for Donald Trump. Now let's touch on COVID and this at-home test. So here's the scoop. There's this single-use disposable test from Lucina Health that's coming out. It can be used on people 14 and older. It's a 30-minute or less test. It's also portable, so you could travel with it, which is kind of cool. It seems to be pretty accurate to the point of getting 94.1% of positives and 98% of negatives. Now, it's not as good as like a PCR test, like those deep nasal ones. Those are close to 100% accurate when administered properly. But again, they're super mobile, and these tests seem really, really neat. The problem is initial production of these is going to be very, very low and limited, so you'll need a doctor prescription to actually get them, and they don't actually think they're going to be available until potentially, like widely available, until potentially the second quarter of 2021, which honestly a lot of people think they'll be vaccinated by then. So on that at-home, stay-at-home test, don't hold your breath for that coming out anytime soon. On COVID, Dr. Scott Gottlieb said that if you go to a restaurant anywhere in the country right now, with knowing the fact that 1.5% of the country is infected with COVID right now, that means you only need 47 people in a restaurant for there to be a 50% chance that at least one person is infected in that restaurant, and possibly the entire restaurant is exposed to a COVID cloud, so to speak. So basically, you go into a restaurant with about 50 people in it, there's about a 50% chance that somebody in there is creating a COVID cloud, according to Dr. Scott Gottlieb. On cases, we are up at 187,428 cases. That's up 73%. And for deaths, we are at 1962. That's up 63%. This ratio is going up pretty fast, and it's going up so fast, especially in areas like El Paso, where El Paso, Texas is now considering rationing medical care. And they're actually using prisoners to move people's bodies into mobile morgue units. Like, you could literally Google, El Paso, Texas prisoners' bodies, and you will see people in the red and white stripes moving these carts around. It's a devastating, next few months that we're going to be going through here. Anyway, that's the update for today. Thank you for all those who emailed me. If you still need to email me, it's kevin@meetkevin.com for those bundle coupon codes. If you just want to get into your first program, you could always use the coupon code down below in the link. Check out those courses, and folks, we will see you in the next video. Thank you.